Hey guys, welcome back. This week we're going to be talking about child sexual abuse and grooming, the stages of grooming, the definitions of both of them, some warning signs to look for in children, and just what to look out for, what to know, and how you can kind of protect your children or anyone you are responsible of taking care for that's a child. This is a topic that's really difficult to talk about, so some of the materials that I go over might be triggering if you yourself are a survivor of child abuse, but it's really, really important that we get this information out there because 1 in 10 children will be abused sexually before their 18th birthday. That's 10% of children, so it's so important that we understand what this looks like and what a child may do or say or act if they are experiencing this abuse. First off, we're going to define child sexual abuse. This is any form of sexual activity with a minor. Now, oftentimes we tend to think of this as an adult perpetrating on a child, but this can also include older siblings, maybe parents' friends, other parents' children, older siblings of friends, coaches, mentors, an older cousin. It can be lots of different people, and there can be lots of individuals who you may not expect. Child sexual abuse can happen in both physical and non-physical ways. So the physical ways that we're kind of more aware of, like intercourse, fondling, any sexual activity with a minor, are ones we tend to think of or hear about. But some other ones include showing children obscene photos, sending them obscene text or chat messages, owning, distributing, making child pornography, and such things like that. Another big one is exhibitionism. So this is when one exposes themselves to a minor in a sexual way, or even masturbating in front of a child or asking a child to masturbate in front of them. So perpetrators of child sexual abuse hold this power over the children through manipulation. They lie to them, they deceive them, they basically exploit the fact that they're children and that they really do not know better and use it to their advantage. So this could be done by lying to the child, telling them, this is normal behavior for an adult and a child to engage in, threatening them, and sometimes even bribing them, which we'll kind of get more into when we talk about grooming. The definition of grooming is when someone initiates and maintains a secret sexual relationship with a child. There are 6 stages to grooming, which we're going to get into, but really this individual just makes a child feel special, has them and their carer's trust for them, and then slowly begins to bring sexual contact and acts into the relationship. Grooming can be something that's really hard to identify. We've seen it in so many instances, especially notably the Larry Nassar case. He would groom his gymnasts. He would kind of get that trust from their parents, from them. He was a medical doctor, and that's how he would use that power over their victims. So 9 out of 10 times when a child sexual abuse happens, it is from someone that either the child or their parent knows. So this is why it's so important to understand the signs of grooming, because it's a slow process. It's something that just doesn't automatically turn into sexual acts. They gain that trust. There are 6 major stages to grooming. The first one is when the perpetrator targets the child. This is when they start giving them special attention or showing favoritism or preference to this child over other children or other individuals. The stage of grooming is in which the perpetrator develops the trust of both the carer and the child. This is a really crucial part of the grooming process for the perpetrator, because once they develop this trust of the carer, then they're given more access to the child, and they've kind of lowered their inhibitions. They've made them believe that they have good intentions with the child. Maybe they want to mentor them, maybe they just want to befriend them or take care of them in some way, but really this just is a ploy to get to spend more time with the child. They will develop the children's trust by showing interest in things that they care about, listening to them, talking to them, and again, showing them that favoritism we talked about. The third stage of grooming is in which the perpetrator feels a need for the child. This could be by giving them gifts, this could be by giving them special attention or care, even just listening to them or meeting basic needs, especially if they're in a lower socioeconomic class and those aren't filled as well. A really good example of this from the Larry Nassar case is he would take care of their sports injuries, and that was a need that they needed filled, especially for gymnasts whose lives were over once they felt like they were injured to the point of not being able to compete. But he would change that. He would be able to help them. So that's a really big and crucial part of this process as well. The fourth stage is isolating the child. This is both emotionally and physically. So the perpetrator is finding reasons to spend time alone with the child. Maybe they're offering to take them to the mall or to go see a movie or to go to the park, but they're also telling the child that they have a special relationship. that their relationship is not like the ones with their parents. They have a special bond, they have a special friendship, just emotionally isolating them and making them feel like their relationship with them is better than the relationship they have with their carers. The fifth stage of grooming is in which the perpetrator sexualizes the relationship. This could be either by talking about inappropriate things with a child, showing them nude pictures, coming up with reasons for them to be naked together, like maybe going swimming, and just really exploiting a child's natural curiosity, asking them questions like, oh, do you masturbate? Do you want me to show you how? Do you want me to show you how I do it? Just taking advantage of the fact that they don't know that this stuff is wrong, but they're also confused because it may feel good because it's a natural body response. Last stage of grooming is how the perpetrator controls the individual. They do this in many different ways. A good example is by telling the child, you tell someone what we did, I'm not going to get to see you anymore. Our friendship, our special bond is going to be ruined. Maybe even threatening them, telling them that if they tell, something bad will happen to their family, or even guilting them, being like, I could get in trouble. You could get me in a lot of trouble if you told about this. So just using that power and coercion, intimidation to make the child afraid to seek help. There are some ways to protect your child, some prevention measures that you can take, some boundaries that you can set that can hopefully prevent this from occurring to them. Really, one of the most important things you can do is just develop an open discussion with your child about this. Talking to them about, what did you do today? Who did you hang out with? Trying to figure out who they spend their time with, who they're around mostly, asking open-ended questions. So if they were to go to a friend's house, asking them not, hey, did you have fun at so-and-so's house? But saying, what did you do at so-and-so's house? Did you hang out with this person? Did you hang out with that person? Who were you around? What did y'all do? Did you have a good time? Things like that, so you can kind of get more information out of them. Another big one is to give their body parts names so that when they're talking to you, they can kind of identify that body part and they can feel more comfortable telling you if that body part was touched and they were uncomfortable by it. A huge one that can be done in just like everyday life is encouraging their bodily autonomy, encouraging their right to say no and their right to decide what happens to their body. This can be done in simple ways as like when they tell you that they want you to stop tickling them, to not do it, or not forcing them to hug a certain family member they don't want to, or sit on Santa's lap. This can be done for strangers too. Setting firm boundaries and letting your child know that they have the right to say no and they have the right to make those boundaries with other people because it is their body. It's also important just to teach them about their boundaries, to teach them, it's not okay if an adult is asking to see your private parts. It's not okay if an adult is touching your private parts or showing you their private parts. Just little things like that, and making sure that they know this is what is appropriate for a child and an adult to do, but this is not. Children and adults should never be keeping secrets together. And if someone asks them to keep a secret, then that should be a sign that they should automatically go and tell their mom and dad. Really, the most important thing you can do is just to let them know that you're there to talk to them, and that no matter what they tell you, you're not going to get them in trouble because this is something that someone else did to them. This is in no way their fault and they're not in the wrong. So just keeping those communication channels open and encouraging conversations with your children. That might be difficult to have, but in the long run might save them from situations like this. It's also important to know warning signs if your child is experiencing sexual abuse. They might start regressing back to more immature behaviors such as bedwetting or thumb sucking. Suddenly they start acting out in school, they don't want to go to school, they're not doing well in school than they were before. They've started experiencing phobias or some sort of PTSD or suicidal thoughts or anxiety. Some physical ones could include problems in their genital areas, itching, tearing, redness, anything like that, or especially for females, frequent urinary tract infections or yeast infections at a really young age. That's kind of like a common sign that doctors see of childhood sexual abuse. Another big one is having an inappropriate knowledge of sexual activity and just in sex in general, because if it's a small child, they shouldn't have the knowledge of like a teenager, the knowledge of like an adult about sexual acts. Finally, another example sign would be maybe their hygiene activity has changed. Maybe they're either bathing, brushing their teeth way too much or way too little. There's been some sort of shift in how frequent they're doing that. As a parent, it's really important to monitor your child's internet use as well, because perpetrators use this to their advantage. They'll play on gaming systems that they know children like, they'll chat with them online, they'll basically just make the child believe that they are either of a different age, a different gender, someone that they can trust when really they're not always what they seem. So just make sure that you're looking at their chats, figuring out who they're talking to online, and not letting them have like unlimited internet access without any parental guidance. I also encourage you to just set general boundaries for your family. People might say that you're like those crazy parents or people who are weird, but who cares? It's okay to say, you know what? We don't hug older people outside of our family. Or if someone were to give your child a gift and it made you uncomfortable, it's okay to say, you know what? We don't accept gifts not on our birthdays, but that was very kind of you. Just setting those boundaries. That's okay. These are your children, and it's honestly better to be safe than sorry. I hope today you were able to understand a little bit about the warning signs of child sexual abuse, what it looks like, things to look out for, and kind of how to react and keep that communication open with your children so that they feel like that they can come talk to you. I hope that this information was beneficial, and if you have any questions or comments, please just leave them down below and we'll try to answer them. Thank you.